What's up, guys? I wanted to share with you a frame that has been immensely powerful for me over the last couple of months, something that has really shifted the way that I interact in all of my relationships, but in particular in all areas of my life, to be honest, right? In my social interactions, in my business interactions, in my interpersonal interactions, meaning romantic interactions, right? So this frame is very simple. This frame is, I assume that I am the leader in every situation. Every situation that I'm in, I assume that I am the leader. Let me show you guys how this plays out. You're gonna be in situations in your life where you are not the leader on paper, or you're in situations in your life where there's no clearly established leader on paper. So for example, a social interaction. If you go to somebody's house, or if you guys are all hanging out at a bar or a club or something like that, and you're in this situation, in a lot of the cases, there's not going to be someone who is the designated leader in that situation. Maybe if you go to somebody's house, there'll be someone who's the designated leader on paper because they are hosting the party, they're hosting the gathering. But still then, even, there's not a designated leader in that situation. Now, in a situation where there's no designated leader, there's a bit of a power vacuum that occurs. And in this power vacuum that occurs, the person that has the most confidence, the person that has the most certainty, the person that knows who they are the most, the person that has the most congruence with who they are and how they're presenting in that environment, in that situation, that's the person that ends up becoming the leader in that situation. So for example, let's go with the social interaction example. If you're hanging out with a couple of other people, let's say you're all high status individuals. I'm assuming that most of the people that are watching these videos are individuals that are already financially successful. You have some kind of position or title. So I'm making the assumption that you're a high status individual. So let's say you're hanging around a bunch of other, millionaires, successful people, influencers, entertainers, whatever it might be. In this situation, where there's no clearly established leader, again, the person that assumes the leadership, the person that's able to get into the mental frame that they are the leader without needing an external party to tell them that they're the leader, that's the person that everyone's going to start following and listening to. And you can kind of get a sense when you step into a social interaction, if you weren't originally involved in it, you kind of get an energetic sense, like human beings are perceptive in this way, where you get a sense of who is the leader, because the eyes are naturally being drawn towards that person. Whenever there's a pause in a situation, everyone ends up looking at that person. Everyone's doing a lot of approval seeking from that person, right? So it's making a joke and then getting validation from the leader in that situation, whether the joke was good or the joke was not good, right? So that's what happens in a social interaction. And I'll tell you why you want to be the leader in an interaction if it's not already obvious. The reason that you want to be a leader in any kind of interaction, in a business, personal, relationship interaction, is because there are outsized benefits to being a leader always. There's always going to be so many more benefits from being a leader. There are responsibilities, yes, that come with being a leader as always, but there are also so many fruits, benefits, from being that leader. So let's say you're in a social interaction, again, right? Let's keep running with this analogy. If you're in a social interaction, what happens is that you get more attention. You get more attention. It's far more likely that people in that environment will be attracted to you kind of on a romantic level. It's far more likely that if you're looking to make connections in that environment, people will naturally be drawn towards you and kind of be the ones to reach out first to try to make that connection rather than you having to do the work and make that connection. So the leadership frame is that if you're able to give yourself the gift of the leadership frame in any situation, there are outsized benefits to it. What's up, guys? Quick interruption on this video. If you're a 7, 8, or 9-figure entrepreneur and you're looking to considerably upskill your communication skills, I'm opening some one-on-one coaching up for a select few individuals for the next couple of quarters. What this looks like. The approach that I take when working with high-performing individuals and upskilling their communication is one that is a very holistic approach, because I understand that in order to become an excellent communicator, in order to understand how to dominate or be a leader in social interaction, business interactions, romantic interactions, there's a lot of holistic work that needs to be done. So this is not just skills and tactics and tricks and tips and whatever, right? This is a holistic identity restructuring. We're building up your identity from the base all the way to the top, and we're making sure that in any situation that you're interacting in, you can be a leader, you can be an impressive individual, you understand how to negotiate, persuade, and influence at the highest level. If you're interested, click on the link in the description, go now, check it out, and let's talk. Now I want to talk about how you get yourself into that leadership frame. The first thing with the leadership frame is that you have to understand that you need to be congruent as an individual. What congruence means? Congruence means is that you know who you are, you understand who you are at a deep level, you know the truths that reside deep within your body, and then you are able to express those truths honestly without doing any kind of filtering, second guessing, validation seeking, or anything like that. It's just the truth is sitting within you, and then boom, the truth comes out, and that's the congruence right there. There's no filtering or anything like that. The next thing, kind of in line with the congruence, is that you are not caring about what anybody else thinks about you. There's no validation-seeking behavior. There's no, you're largely basically indifferent to what anybody in your environment is thinking about you. That doesn't mean that you're not perceptive. That doesn't mean that you're not emotionally intelligent. That doesn't mean that you are not seeing what's going on. But it just means that you are able to operate without fear and hesitancy because of what other people are saying. I'll say this also. High levels of mastery when it comes to being able to communicate at a high level means that you're able to simultaneously be emotionally intelligent and factor in the opinions and perspectives and reactions that you're getting from other people, and also be completely unadulterated and honest and candid in your own frame, right? So it's the ability to able to handle that duality at the same time. Just live in that duality. That's a high-level communicator right there. Because oftentimes, and I'll say this just kind of off of that, sometimes high-level communicators are in situations where people don't understand the ideas that they're communicating right now. And you have to be able to bridge the gap between where people are at right now and your ideas. You have to be able to bridge that gap. And being able to maintain your own ideas while simultaneously understanding that people are not understanding you, this distance, that's the art, and that's kind of the indication of your skill set. But as I was saying though, the keys to being the leader and assuming that leadership frame in any situation is that congruence, it's that lack of caring. And then I would say, in addition to that, it really just comes down to your ability to, your ability to understand that you have value to offer, irrespective of where you stand on a hierarchical scale, right? So it's like, let's say, for example, you're in a boardroom, right? You're in a boardroom with other high-powered executives, and there's the chairman of the board, and there's other executives on the board, and then there's you. And you're not the chairman, you're not the top of the heap, but you are someone with a decent amount of power, a decent amount of status. In that situation, albeit you are lower on the totem pole, you still have to understand that you have immense value to offer, and you can be the leader in that situation irrespective of what the leadership hierarchy looks like on paper. So let's say, for example, again, you're in this boardroom and the chairman of the board asks you a question. When you talk and when you answer that question, it should immediately resonate with anybody that, oh my God, this person is a leader. And I'm very impressed by this person. And again, you're not seeking that validation, you're not seeking that approval, but if you were, right, that's what they would be saying. I'll give you guys another example as well. The mistake that a lot of people make, and I'll kind of talk about the mistakes quickly, is that people, when they're not in the top of the heap, the hierarchical position, they're not at the very top of it, they are diminished. And they kind of assume the follower frame, let's call it the beta frame. So we can take the boardroom example, or we can take the example of a seminar or a public speaking event. If you're at this public speaking event or at this seminar, and you're in the audience, so you're listening to the seminar, and then let's say, for example, the leader of the seminar asks you to hop on stage. If you hop on stage, it should not be a switch for you. A lot of people, they have to make a switch where they're like, I've been so follower mode, I've been so quote unquote beta mode, I don't even like that word, but I've been kind of in this follower, listener, sheep mode, and now I need to will myself and get myself revved up to be in the leader mode. That's a mistake. What you should be doing is that you should already be in the leadership frame, and then it's no different, right? You're just interacting authentically from that leader frame. So let me go over those three things again in order to get into the leader frame. Number one is the congruence, right? So knowing how you feel deeply and then just having lack of hesitancy in expressing that honestly. Making it a considerable effort to be like, hey, listen, everything that I say, everything that I do is gonna come from the deepest reserves of myself. Number two, it's gonna be not caring about what other people think, not having any validation-seeking behavior. And then number three, it's going to be irrespective of the hierarchical positions in an environment, you always feel like you have immense value to offer. And because you feel like you have immense value to offer, and because you're confident, because you're congruent, because you're not validation-seeking, you're always a leader. The leader of the seminar should be able to ask you a question, and you're all the way in the back of the audience, and you should be able to resonate with the entire audience and basically lead the audience in the minute in which you're giving your answer. Like, that's the frame that I'm asking you to operate from. This is particularly potent if you're already a high status, wealthy individual who's looking to kind of 10x in some areas in your life. Maybe your social leverage, your social, outcomes are not to the level that you're seeking. Maybe you don't have enough power. Let's not call it power. Let's call it leverage in your company. Or maybe it's like you want power, you want influence, you want outsized power and leverage over kind of the masses, right? And you haven't been able to achieve that yet. And it's because of your communication skills, and it's because you're not operating consistently in that leader frame. Leader frame means when you're at Ralph's, you're a leader. When you're driving down the street, you're a leader. When you're walking down the fucking street, you're a leader. When you're at the dog park with your dog and your girlfriend or whatever, you're the leader in that situation. I'll leave you guys with this. I had a mentor tell me recently where he's like, if you were in an army, you're a soldier in an army, and the general's head in the army gets cut off, the time between the general's head getting cut off and you assuming leadership should be like 30 seconds. It should be almost no time at all. And it's because you're so constantly in that leader frame that it's only natural for you to assume leadership in that very difficult situation. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you very soon. And let me know if you have any questions. Drop some questions in the comments. I would be happy to answer that in my subsequent videos. See you guys soon.